and gentlemen, would you please welcome from Gartner, Research Vice President Brian Burke and Vice President and Gartner Fellow Mark Raskino.
We all know BP is a huge oil company, but let me tell you just how big it is. With revenues just under $400 billion, BP is the 6th largest oil company in the world. It has a presence in 80 countries and produces 2.4 million barrels of oil every single day. BP integrates the steps from exploration through the value chain to production and ultimately to filling your tank at one of the 20,000 BP branded service stations. The IT organization is also sized to match BP's scale, with more than 10,000 people in 50 countries.
Dana Deasy joined BP in 2007, bringing with him more than a decade of CIO-level experience at organizations such as General Motors, Tyco, and Siemens America. His background in diverse industries gives him a deep understanding of the CIO role and enables him to provide direction to a complex organization, to manage upwards to the board level, and to manage through crisis and through transformation.
Before 2008, the IT group at BP spent $3 billion a year in a highly decentralized IT environment. There was a lot of waste, duplication, and redundancy. But the good news was there were abundant opportunities for cost cutting. That same year, Dana undertook the first wave of transformation. It was a major consolidation and outsourcing initiative that saved $800 million a year.
The business challenges facing BP's global CIO are many. For example, how can IT become a key partner in driving business outcomes? Or how can digitalization of oil fields enable BP to maximize oil production? Or how can BP IT ensure that its 7,000 applications, its 57 petabytes of storage, and its 13,000 teraflops of computing power are used to maximum business effect?
The IT organization at BP has been very successful in consolidation, cost-cutting, outsourcing, and improving IT service delivery. But soon, Dana will move on to a new position as CIO of a major bank. So what legacy does he leave behind in terms of people, purpose, and direction?
Dana has been setting a course for the future that takes the IT department into the digital business age that we've all been talking about at this conference. He calls that new endeavor IT 2.0. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Gartner Mastermind stage the global CIO of BP, Dana Deasy.
Welcome. It's good to be here. Okay, Dana, let me ask you first of all, what were you asked to do when you joined BP 6 years ago?
I think there was probably 4 or 5 challenges that had to be addressed. One, when you can imagine the scale and the size of BP, it was getting after the organizational structure, getting after the capability, getting after the huge supplier base, getting after the lack of confidence that I think the customers of BP had in terms of using IT services at the time. The scale was quite large. We were dealing with probably 3,000 or 4,000 suppliers. We were dealing with a ratio of 30% badged, 70% not badged employees. So there's some very fundamental structural things that needed to be addressed.
Okay. And when you got there, what was the big headline changes that you were making?
I think the biggest ones were trying to understand whether or not $3 billion made sense for the firm. And if it didn't make sense, what was the right landing zone that we needed to get into? I think it was about creating pride back into an IT organization. And I think it was about addressing technology in a way where you knew it was going to be moving very quickly out of the back office and digitization of the coalface, as we like to call it, of the oil firm was going to be taking place at a rapid rate. And yet the challenge was, were we prepared? Did we have the right professional capability to address that at the right pace?
When you talk about building pride into the organization, tell me a little bit about what that means.
So the way I like to say that is, if you walk into a room or you're listening to an IT professional talk in front of the business, how is it they're talking? Are they talking with a great deal of excitement? Are they talking on what I call their foot forward, leading the conversation, driving the conversation, taking charge of the conversation, as opposed to being tentative and kind of letting the business lead the conversation? I tell everybody every day, I don't like this term functions. It implies that there's something different about if you're an IT professional versus if you're in the business. And so pride to me is when you really act like you are the business.
And when you had gone through this transformation, how did the organization look different? What was some of the key differences in terms of how BP was providing services to your customers?
Well, I think first of all, we looked different just internally before we even got outbound. We went through a fairly radical change in terms of the type of skills that we needed. Just a small example, the leadership team that's in place today with me is probably been about 80% changed. The next level down was probably about 25% changed. There was just a difference in terms of the people. I think how it looks fundamentally different today is 6 years ago, the business was probably trying to pull back as many dollars as they could out of IT because they just weren't confident that they were going to get what they wanted. Today, ironically, even this era of where we're trying to worry about cost and trying to be smart with it, the business is trying to give us more dollars than frankly we can probably handle at this point. And so I would say that's the biggest way it looks different in terms of the business is now pushing us versus pushing away from us.
Okay, excellent. What did you learn in this transformation, and what would you like to pass along to our CIOs here in the audience?
So the first thing when you walk into a new job is you're going to get a lot of counseling, you're going to get a lot of advice, and you obviously need to listen to all that. But at the end of the day, the reason that you were hired was that you have to take your own counsel. And I think the biggest thing for me was, at the end of the day, taking some very difficult decisions early on, not taking your foot off the pedal. In other words, at times people were quite critical and concerned that the pace was too fast of the change that we were going through. But I know how painful and disruptive transformations can be to IT organizations. I know how it plays on the emotional state of people. So my concern was how quickly could we get through that. So I'd say take your own counsel, move with pace, take the difficult decisions early on.
Was there anything that you tried in that transformation initiative that just really didn't work, that you wouldn't do that again?
Yeah, I think there was probably two. So we had this really bold idea that we wanted to go out and literally find where was the skill set of the organization. So we undertook the largest assessment I think ever attempted. We assessed over 4,000 people in under a year. And I think it was highly disruptive. I think as people were going through that, there was a sense that, am I not the professional I thought I was? And I didn't want the organization to lose confidence. But I think going through that, some people maybe felt that they had lost confidence. That'd be one thing. The other one was, you're so focused on trying to address business needs, innovation, your supplier base, your org structure, your capability, that you kind of lose sight of just kind of getting basic IT services to run better internally. And looking back today, I think we could have done more on that.
Okay, excellent.
So you came and you spent some years doing this transformation, keeping your foot to the pedal as fast as possible, winning back the trust of the business. You're cutting a lot of money, there's a lot of moving parts. But any plan doesn't survive contact with the enemy very long. So particularly in the oil business, you're subject to disasters to disruptions. You work in difficult parts of the world and in difficult environments. You know, BP has faced some big disasters. How have those disrupted IT? So what's the direct consequence on IT when these business disruptions and disasters happen?
Yeah, I think there's probably two types I'll talk about. One is the unexpected crisis you might find yourself in. And a couple of examples come to mind. There was the one where we were majorly reliant on Satya back when the company was at risk. And there was the whole issue of knowing what was really important that you really needed to focus on. And the other one was the Arab Spring. Obviously, BP has a huge presence in the Middle East. And to be able to deal as an IT professional with suddenly a host of quickly changing factors, of which frankly a lot of them don't have to do with IT, you know, like the government taking down the entire internet communications capability, but yet you've got to somehow communicate with all your people that you're trying to evacuate, and how do you work through that? I think the other one is this whole cyber threat. And for, you know, in the oil and gas industry, well, actually anybody who's touching the global infrastructure today, now 40% of the worldwide attacks are in the energy sector. And you would have thought a number of years ago, I kind of call this the boiling frog approach. And what I mean by that was this quietly kept getting worse and worse and worse until you finally wake up one day and you're sitting in a world where this is a serious threat to the industry as a whole, and obviously to your firm. And you really, really have to think how to talk about reinventing yourself in real time, because you're moving from a world of, I want to keep the bad guys out, to a reality of, well, what happens if they do get in, and what's the new game plan? And you almost have to set your organization to think about dealing with the art of warfare, because you're dealing in a different world with a different sort of an adversary.
I'll have to open that up a little bit. Who are these adversaries? Because you use the term warfare, we hear about cyber warfare, we hear open letters from the security services of the major nations to corporate leaders and to people like you. How much is this just kids hacking, real organized crime, and how much does it tend to get into the real international politics and nation state stuff? Is that any of that real?